My fiance and my brother, well, they disgraced and betrayed me in the worst way possible, and I have nothing on my mind except for one thing: revenge. I'm 32 male. I was engaged to marry Ella, 28 female, 3 weeks ago. We met 8 years ago while we were both in law school. I graduated and now am a small partner at a local law firm. Ella dropped out of school just before graduation due to mental health issues, and now works as a teaching assistant in the local school system. When she dropped out, it was very hard on both of us because she was struggling with very bad depression at the time. And I was very busy with all my exams, so I couldn't give her the attention she truly needed. Fortunately, I passed my exams and got a job quite quickly, so I had more time to spend with her. I come from a family of immigrants, and my parents run a successful restaurant chain in the city. It started off as a cart that they pushed around every day, but they eventually managed to expand, and are now quite well off. Because of this, I didn't have the student loan debt to pay off once I graduated, and I found a job pretty quickly. Ella, on the other hand, comes from a very poor family, and was drowning in debt. She didn't even manage to graduate, so she didn't have the qualifications to get a job either. Well, not a really great paying job at least. At the time, we've been dating for a few years, and we talked a lot about marriage. So I offered to support the both of us, pay rent, bills, etc., until she could pay off her debt. She quickly agreed, and that has been the way we've been living for the past few years. She eventually got her job at the elementary school, and while she was still heavy in debt, it's considerably less than it was before. 2 years ago, I proposed to Ella and she accepted. We were so excited and my family loved her, so it was really exciting to me. Ella dove headfirst into wedding planning, and we had a conversation early on, where I told her that I would be okay with paying the bulk of the cost for the wedding, because I knew that she wanted an extravagant ceremony before I proposed. It took a lot of convincing, but she finally conceded. I've heard of a lot of couples say that the wedding planning was a big stressor on their relationship, but that was the opposite of our experience. Ella and I became closer than ever before. It was a really happy time for us. All of her friends were absolutely delighted. She was great, really understanding, and when I had to work late or when I couldn't make appointments. I have a younger brother. He's 25. He lives with our parents. He's a bit of a screw-up and has dropped out of school multiple times. He's constantly coming up with new ideas and then bailing on them halfway through, leaving everyone to clean up his dirty mess. He's always been quite resentful towards me for having my life together and having a job, but we still get along pretty well. He hasn't had a job in about 4 years just because he's always coming up with get-rich-quick schemes. He lives off of our parents and lives beyond his means. He's always buying new gadgets, and he has 2 cars, and he likes to deck himself out in designer clothing. Ella and my brother never really spoke much. I mean, they got along pretty well, but only as in-laws. They never spent time together or did anything. Only really talked at family events and gatherings. When we announced the news of our engagement, my brother was weird about it. I thought it was just another case of jealousy because I was settling down, and I was making my own money. I didn't think much of it because he's always been like this when I achieve something, and this time didn't seem any different, so I spoke to my parents about it in passing, but he is their youngest, their little darling. So they didn't like to hear anything against him, especially Mom, who dotes on him. Dad is a little bit less blind to him, but still lets him get away with a lot. This used to bother me when I was younger, and he would do things that I would get grounded for, and he got away without a warning. But I've come to terms with it. Ella has always been very supportive when it comes to my relationship with my brother. She encourages me to reach out. Though he was strange at first, it seemed like my brother was getting quite excited for the wedding the closer that it got. About 6 months ago, he began to get really excited. I thought that this was just him finally being happy for me. He started to visit more often, and he would talk to Ella for hours about the wedding. I don't have the head for this kind of thing, and I find it hard to get excited over centerpieces. So honestly, I was just happy that she had someone to talk to in the family. I was pretty happy with the arrangement. I was there when I could, but when I had to work, my brother showed up instead and supported Ella. They began to spend a lot of time together out of the house, but I didn't think much of it. I thought that was just them trying to get a little closer and bond, seeing as they were going to be family soon. My brother is a very handsome man. He's the looker in the family, some would say, and I'm the smart one. All three of us used to joke that my brother could be my stand-in for the wedding pictures and that he would look much better in a suit than I would. Well, the jokes didn't really bother me because I was very secure in my relationship. Besides, my brother's a bit of a player and always has some new girl wrapped around his arms. A different one for every day of the week. The week leading up to the wedding, I stayed in my parents' house so that the wedding night would be the first night we spent together in a week. I knew that Ella was getting a little bit antsy, having anxiety about all the plans, so I asked my brother to check in on her a few times. Ella is big on tradition, so she didn't want me to see her too often before the wedding. I was okay with this. I've always enjoyed her quirks, and I was just excited to make her my new wife. My brother would stay at our house till late and come back to our parents' house pretty tipsy. I just assumed that he was helping Ella work through some of her nerves. You can probably see where this is going, right? And a lot of you would probably be wondering why I didn't see this coming myself, but I trusted the both of them blindly, and I never would have imagined that they would do this to me. So, on the day of the wedding, I hadn't seen Ella for over a week. The ceremony was scheduled for 1 p.m. so that we would have a lot of time to get ready. Of course, my brother was my best man, and at 11:30 he was supposed to come to my dressing room and let me read over his speech just to approve the stories he was planning on telling. But the time came and went, and I couldn't find him. I had both my parents searching, and myself was looking for them too. I deliberately steered clear of the bridal suits because I knew that Ella would kill me if I saw her dressed before the actual ceremony. But eventually, I'd searched everywhere else, so I didn't really have another choice. Once I got to the bridal suit, I saw two of Ella's friends standing outside as if they were standing guard. They looked upset when they saw me and tried to stop me from entering the room, but by now I'd started to worry. I pushed past both of them and opened the door. And that was where I found my fiance and my brother, naked, together on the ground. I think my heart just about stopped. I absolutely froze. I didn't even say anything. I was just staring at them like an idiot. As soon as they saw me, they scrambled apart, both of them reaching for their clothing. I don't know why I noticed this, but Ella's dress was hanging on the door, and all I could think was how beautiful it was. I didn't even give them a minute to explain themselves. I just marched out of the room, got into my car, and drove into the sunset. I didn't want to go home, not where they'd be looking for me, so I drove for a few hours and stopped at a bar in the middle of nowhere. Once I sat down and ordered the strongest drink that I could find, I checked my phone. It was 3 p.m. by then, so I'd missed the ceremony, and I had about 1 million texts and just as many calls clogging up my home screen. Most of them are from Ella and a few from my brother, and about 10 from my mom. The only one I replied to was my mother. I just told her that I was safe and that I was sorry for not telling her I was leaving. As soon as the text was sent, my mom starts calling me and she was furious. She was yelling at me, asking how I could do this to Ella, asking if I knew how much I embarrassed her. I was confused, so I asked what she was talking about. Apparently, my brother and Ella had lied and told everyone that I'd bailed. I told my mom exactly what happened. I spared no details. Well, she was absolutely quiet for a few seconds and quietly apologized for yelling. I told her that I was going to be out of town for a few days and just put the phone down. Then I turned it off. Honestly, I spent the next few days on a bender. I crashed in a motel and I was drinking all day and night. I was so angry. I didn't exactly feel hurt. I didn't feel sad. I was just seething with fury. Before I drank myself stupid the 4th day in a row, I decided I had to sort some things out. So I got back into my car and drove home. I didn't know exactly where I was going to stay because Ella was probably at our house and my brother would either be there with her or at our parents'. I dropped by the house and didn't see either of their cars, which was a good sign. So I went inside, grabbed some clothing, and I've been wearing my wedding suit for the past 5 days and it was absolutely disgusting. I left it on the bed for her to sort out and checked myself into the hotel. Once I turned my phone on again for the first time since I spoke to my mother, I had even more missed calls and voicemails and texts and emails even from Ella. They were all so apologetic. She told me that she was so sorry, that she hoped she hadn't ruined everything, that it wasn't personal, that it didn't mean anything, that it was just some stupid fling, and that she loved me. I deleted all of them without reading most of them, and texted my mom to let her know where I was staying. A few hours later, a knock came on a hotel room door, and since I expected it to be Mom, I answered it without even looking through the peephole. And when I opened the door, there stood my brother and Ella. As soon as I saw him, I punched my brother as hard as I could. I ended up breaking his nose flat. And while Ella was crouching over him screaming, I just closed the door and called security. They escorted them out of the building, and, well, that was a few weeks ago, and I'm still staying at the hotel. My mother's come to visit a few times, bringing home-cooked food so I don't have to live on room service. She didn't yell at me for breaking my brother's nose at all. I was surprised to find that she seemed just as angry with him as I was. I'm not even angry anymore, though. The sadness has crept up. I feel betrayed, and I feel like a complete idiot for not seeing that's been happening right under my nose. My time off from work is almost up, and the fact that I've spent my honeymoon alone is more depressing than anything. Tomorrow, I'm going to have Ella and my brother meet me for lunch, and I'm going to listen to the stupid excuses they have. When they're done, I'm going to lay down my demands. The demands will be as followed. Number 1, Ella will be vacating our shared home within the week. Number 2, the both of them will be making public statements on their Facebook pages explaining exactly what they've done and apologizing for it. Number 3, they would both be paying the exact cost of the wedding preparations, meaning both will pay for the full amount without using our parents' money. Number 4, if any of these terms are not met, I'll be suing the both of them for every cent they have, and I'll take everything from both of them. I've spent the past couple of weeks drafting these demands, adding and removing lines and clauses, and these are what I've narrowed them down to. I don't care how much either of them beg, apologize, or plead. I know the law. I know that it's on my side, and I know lawyers. Good lawyers. Any of my colleagues at my firm would back me up on this, and they know how much I've done for Ella. What's up, guys? Mr. Reddito here. So there's a few updates on this story. What a disaster, right? Well, we're going to jump into update number 1, which is another meeting between OP and Ella. Here it is. I met with them yesterday. They actually had the audacity to try and negotiate my terms. I'm shocked by their nerve to think that they are right. I explained calmly and clearly exactly what would happen if they do not agree to my terms, and they still tried to bargain with me. My mind's been made up. My leave ends tomorrow, and once I get to work, I'll be drafting my lawsuit. I'm going to take everything from them. I've told my parents my plans, and while they aren't happy, they know they can't interfere. They know that my brother deserves this. I texted a friend of mine who works at a different firm that specializes in divorces. We're going to have lunch the day after tomorrow to discuss everything that I'll need to do, and all the paperwork that I'll have to file. This is going to be a long fight, and I know I might just be humiliating myself by putting everything on public record. But I'm not going to let them do this to me and get away with it. Update number 2 takes place a few months since the last update, and here it is. The lawsuit's underway, honestly. I think that deep down I'm kind of glad they did not take my offer. I feel like it would have been too easy for them. Obviously, they would have struggled with money and been embarrassed by the public apology on social media, but all they would have lost was their dignity. Now, I'm going to take everything. I don't think that they believed that I would actually go through with my threats. I'm not usually a malicious guy, and they know it. But this time is different. They humiliated me without a second thought, all while pretending to be excited for the wedding. It was more than a betrayal. Both of them have now realized that I was serious, and both have separately contacted me, and blamed the other for seducing them. I don't believe either of them, obviously. They're trying to save face as best as they can, and it makes me feel a little better that they're willing to throw each other under the bus like this. Honestly, I think that it would have felt worse if they were more loyal to each other than they have been to me, or if they were actually in love or something. Though, at the same time, that means that they've betrayed me purely physical reasons. I keep trying to think up ways to absolve them, trying to spin the situation so that I don't have to lose either of them, but the anger wins every time. When I went back to work, I felt like nobody in the office knew what happened. Like they were staring at me and whispering behind my back. Now, I know that obviously some gossip did happen, but I know that most of them are just wondering what exactly happened. I haven't told anyone exactly why the wedding was called off, and it seems as if Ella and my brother neglected to mention it too, in an attempt to save face. I'm not going around broadcasting it either. I'm waiting for them to agree to my terms and make their public apology themselves, and if they refuse, then they'll have to explain exactly why I sued them for everything they had. The only person that I told is my friend, the one who's helping with the lawsuit. Ella's parents have contacted me too and apologized on her behalf. I don't think that they meant it though, because as soon as the apologies were out of the way, they began laminating Ella's mental health. They said that she was struggling worse than when she left school and that they were worried about her. I wasn't having it, and told them it was a shame she cheated, because she wouldn't have to bail her out this time. They hung up pretty soon after that. My mother's tried gently broaching the subject that I should just let it go. Forgive and forget, but I don't know if she actually means it or if she's trying to protect her favorite son. I hope that it's the former, because she's really just does seem to be on my side with this one, but you never know. The only one of my demands that Ella agreed to was her leaving the house. I'm pretty sure she only did this because my name is on the lease and not hers. She also knows how good I am at my job and how well I know the law, so she probably knew that she would not win the case. It's that confuses me. Both of them know that they have no chance of winning, and yet they're still trying to negotiate. I've only seen them a few times since the actual wedding, and looking at their faces just makes me actually sick. My parents make sure that my brother's out of the house whenever I come to visit them. And once Ella moved, we've had little contact, and now the only times I see them is when we meet up for legal negotiations. The both of them have hired separate lawyers, which just shows that they have no loyalty towards each other. But neither of them can even afford a good lawyer. My parents have refused to allow my brother to use their money for this, and Ella could not afford a good lawyer even if she wasn't in debt. So there's no possible way of them winning. But they're still trying to convince me to change my mind and to settle. Unfortunately for them, my mind's made up, and once I make up my mind, I don't budge. That's something they should know about me, having known me for such a long time, but apparently they were only paying attention to each other. Well, guys, I will update soon. Well, Mr. Reddito here, it seems like OP did update soon, and there's some things that go down in Update 3 that you might not have seen coming. I hope you guys are enjoying this saga story. If you are, and you do want to support the channel, it's very simple. All you have to do is click that subscribe button. It only takes a couple seconds. You can find the button directly under this video, and let's check out what's happening in update number 3. As I suspected, my mother is on my brother's side. She called me the other day and asked if we could meet for lunch. I sort of knew where this was going, but agreed in the hopes that I was wrong. We had a really nice lunch together and was beginning to think that I'd harshly judged her. When she brought up exactly what I knew she was going to talk about, she said that I should drop the lawsuit for my own sake, not just for my brother's. She was right when she said that since the wedding, I have become a very angry and a vengeful person. I know that I'm like this, but I don't really see how I could be any other way. She asked if I really wanted to humiliate both of them, and I said yes, with all my heart. I then asked her if my brother had asked her to speak to me on his behalf, and while she denied it, I didn't believe her. I do think that she wants to bring the family back together, but I don't believe she has to see me out of her own desire to help my brother. I just know that he put her up to it. I don't have enough room in me to feel betrayed by my mother right now, but the fact that my brother tried to use her to get into my good books makes me even more sure that I want to go through with this. I'll update you if anything crazy happens. Update number 4. This lawsuit's been dragging on for months now, and the negotiations went quickly because I was so adamant about my demands and refused to budge. But once all the paperwork was filed, everything sort of came to a grinding halt. I'm not too fussed about that, though, as long as I get my revenge eventually. I know that sounds silly and like a line from a bad movie, but revenge is all I have now. I can't trust anyone anymore. The woman that I thought I would spend the rest of my life with, the one who I supported emotionally, physically, and financially, and my only brother, someone I grew up with, are the ones who did this to me. I'm still finding it hard to wrap my head around exactly what happened. I found myself going over the time frame in my mind, wondering when it began. Sometimes I wake up and forget for a split second what happened, and wonder why Ella's not in the bed next to me. And then I remember and have to go on about my day alone. My mom's been pushing more and more for me to drop the lawsuit, telling me that my brother's suffering enough. But everything she says is sounding hollow to me. I've stopped answering her calls, and her insistence of defending my brother has just become another betrayal in my head. She's reminding me of Ella's parents, who are still trying to convince me to forgive her any chance they get. Her father cornered me in the grocery store the other day and told me that she'd be ruined if I went through with this, and they'd never see her mental health so bad. Again, I reiterated that it was a shame she'd cheated, because the last time she had a mental breakdown, I'd been there to pick up the pieces and support her. But now she'd have to go through this alone. No one, not even my own parents, have asked about my mental health in the past months. They assume that I'm just fine, too consumed with rage to still feel the betrayal deeply. But there's something about that where they're wrong. I'm hurt that my fiance would do this, that my brother would betray me. But I think what's really fueling me now is my mom's decision to protect her favorite little baby boy. I thought that I've gotten past my resentment over the way she's treated us differently as children, but apparently now, because it's all bubbling back up. When she'd refused to pay for my brother's lawyer, I thought that she was finally coming to value me as her son. Not picking favorites anymore, but it seems as if, like my brother and Ella, her loyalty has limits. Updates number 5. Well, the pair of them have agreed to terms finally. I think that they knew they were getting dangerously close to losing every penny they had to rub together. I'm content to allow them to fold. It was never about the money for me. I just wanted them to feel the humiliation of the pain that I felt when I saw them on the floor out of our wedding venue together. We've reached a settlement outside of court, and both of them will pay me the amount I spent on the wedding separately. I hear that they've both needed to take a loan out in order to pay me, but I could care less if their credit score tanks. I just want to feel their pain. I also insisted that they allow me to edit the draft of their Facebook post before they post it. I won't be having them skirting responsibility or talking around what they did. I want every juicy detail. Some people have called me dumb and told me I'm only embarrassing myself by insisting that they tell the world that they cheated. But I don't care about my reputation. People can laugh behind my back all they want, as long as they found out exactly what type of person Ella and my brother are. Mom's happy that I've dropped the suit, but she's still trying to carefully convince me not to take my brother's money. I ended up blowing up on her the other day and asking why she always took my brother's side. I asked her if I meant anything to her, or if I was just the older brother to her real golden boy. She seemed taken aback by my outburst. I'm normally such a mild, soft-spoken person, but these past few months have seemed to mold me into something else. I'm not sure that I like who I'm becoming, but I don't know if I would be able to cope if I resorted back to the way I was. Being trusted and kind ended up making me lose everything. I'd rather be an angry person than be caught off guard like that ever again. I haven't talked to my mom in a few days, and I kinda want to call her up and apologize for yelling, but I've been apologizing my entire life, trying to keep the peace whenever she took my brother's side on anything. But no, not this time. Every time I consider calling her, I remember the bridesmaid standing outside the door, trying to stop me from entering. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. They've had enough sense to have lookouts watching the door. They weren't caught up in a fit of passion. If they were level-headed enough to worry that someone could walk in, then they were level-headed enough to know that what they were doing was wrong. I'll be meeting with my lawyer one last time tomorrow. Since he's a friend of mine, he's lowered his rate considerably, but it's still a big expense. I'm counting on some of the money I get in the settlement to pay for it, which is another reason I've been so adamant that they pay me. I just wanted to thank you all for your kind replies and messages. I didn't expect that I'd get so much support on this throwaway post, but you guys have really been supportive. It's really needed some friends through all this, and you guys have stepped up when my family could not, so once again, thank you for all the comments. What's up guys, Mr. Reddito here. So, it's been a while since the final update came out, and OP wanted to go ahead and release just one final mini update. It's been 6 months later, and we're going to see exactly what happened with the settlement. Hey guys, sorry for the long post. It's been 6 months now since I've reached the settlement with Ella and my brother. Life's kind of gone back to normal, or as normal as it could be. I had a long talk with my mom about how I felt, that she always chose my brother over me, and she apologized and admitted to it. I was shocked. My mom's not usually the apologetic type, and I think my dad might have had a word with her about it. Though, I haven't seen my brother in months. I always text ahead when I'm going to visit my parents, and they send him to his room or make him go for a drive. I appreciate the gesture. I'm not sure that I'd be able to relax with them in the same room. Ella parents have stopped contacting me, and I told them I'd file a restraining order. And after the lawsuit dragged on for so long, I think they knew that I was serious. Ella's been staying with her parents as far as I know, and I don't think she had any more contact with my brother than I have. She's been paying me in monthly installments in accordance with the settlement. I considered charging her interest, but I decided that would just be too petty. I'm content with my demands, and it would put too much of a financial strain on her to pay interest on both her student loans and her payments to me. Some people have said that I'm being too considerate of her feelings, but I'm not a dirtbag. I just want what I'm owed. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm actually starting to date someone new, too. She's a temp at the firm, and we get along immediately. It's only been a few weeks, but I'm taking it as a good sign that I'm not damaged irreparably from everything that occurred. I won't be introducing her to my brother anytime soon. Thanks guys for listening and helping me through this debacle. So my biggest question I have for this story, the betrayal, all that happened, you have to remember every single bad detail and every single good detail, but in the end, if you were OP, would you go ahead with the lawsuit, or would you go ahead and say, hey, if you agree to these terms, I won't continue? Or are you just going to push through and say, we're doing this lawsuit? Guys, let me know your thoughts about this, and also, if you ever have any experience that OP went through, go ahead and share with us how you handled that. Me, personally, I can't even imagine being cheated on by your fiancé and betrayed by your brother merely hours before you tie the knot with your significant other. And not only that, her own friends, who I was supposed to trust, had lookouts. That means they knew about it the whole time. Guys, let me know your entire thoughts of this story. Drop your comments down below. If you're not subscribed to the channel, though, just take one quick second and smash that subscribe button. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the saga story of this wild ride, and I'll see you guys in the next one.